A hearty welcome to the chief guest of today, Professor K.S. Kannan Mahodaya. Mahodaya, Bhavatam Charanarandyoho Baddhena Anjalina Natena Shirasa Gatraissa Romodgamaihi Anantananta Pranaman Samarpayami Namamsi Bhuyamsi Putaha Adyavayam Bhavadrishanam Kalarasikanam Sanidhyam Praptam Iti Kutaschet यदि एकः यज्ञः सम्यक् सम्पूर्णं भवति इति यः कोऽपि वदति चेत् तत् कथम् इति वयं चिन्तयामश्चेत् महतां सान्निध्यं तत्र भविष्यति इति वदन्ति। अतः भवन्तः महान्तः अत्र आगताः अस्मान् अनुग्रहीतुम् इत्येव अहोभाग्यम् अस्माकं। धन्याः वयं पौनः पुण्येन नमांसि वयं समर्पयामः. So it is again a real great fortune for us to have Shri Professor K.S. Kannan Mahodaya here. Like Shri Bhojaraja says in his Champu Ramayanam in the beginning, I am trying to cross the ocean of Shri Ramayana through a small vessel. That is how we would also have to cross the vessel or to cross the ocean of Shri Professor Kannan Mahodaya's huge life experience. Words are not enough for us to speak about him, but still, Aupacharika Ritya in official terms, with your Agnya Mahodaya, a few words about you. Professor Kannan Mahodaya has a wide range of experience with Bhasha and Pathana is what we can tell. Of course, a very rich experience of teaching to many students through over so many years and being awarded by Mahaniyas like Sri Rangapriya Mahaswami and a lot of universities. We all can say that it is his grace upon us to have taken time away from his busy schedule and to have come here and been a part of this. Words are less, as I told in the initial terms, that for us to speak anything about him. All we can say is, thank you so much, Mahodaya, for being here. We also had the opportunity of listening to him in the Upanyasa Malika last year. He was the first person who did the Upanyasa Malika. It was Hasya in Sanskrita and Kavya, and we all have heard him. So we wanted him to come back and be a part of this wonderful course taken by a wonderful teacher. Vayam dhanyaha. Manina valayah valayena manihi. Manina valayena vibhati karaha. Kavina cha vibhuhu vibhuna cha kavihi. Kavina vibhuna cha vibhati sabha iti asmakam mata sada vadati. Tadvateva अस्मिन् दिने वयं कविं विभुम् अत्र अस्मिन् सभायां पश्यामः. अतः धन्यवादाः महोदय.
गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. नमस्सर्वेभ्यः. अस्यां सभायां कानिचन वचनानि मया वक्तव्यानि इति भवतां सूचनानुसारम् अहम् अत्र उपस्थितोऽस्मि. मन्ये अत्र बहवः श्रोतारः द्रष्टारः वा वर्तन्ते इति यथा कथञ्चित् भवतु. परन्तु यदि केचन अपि जनाः उत्साहेन पाठं शृण्वन्ति तर्हि तत्र विद्याप्रवृद्धिः सम्यगेव भविष्यति इति एतद्विषये व्योमसंस्था महतीं संस्कृतसेवां करोति इति नात्र संशयः। एवञ्च अत्र डाक्टर् शोभा वासुकी प्रभृतयः विदुष्यः अपि भागं वहन्ति इति तत् तादृशैः जनैः संस्थायाः शोभा वर्धते, एवञ्च संस्थायाः शोभायाः शोभा अपि नितरां वर्धते इति महानेव प्रमोदस्य विषयः। एवञ्च यदि बोधकस्य बोधिकायाः वा प्रसन्नं वदनं भवति तर्हि विद्यार्थिनः अपि प्रसन्नेन वदनेन विषयं सम्यक् गृह्णन्ति, उत्साहेन गृह्णन्ति इत्यपि वर्तते अयं विषयः। एवञ्च वैद्यः उपाध्यायश्च यदि सोत्साहौ तर्हि विद्यार्थिनामपि उत्साहः उत्सुकता च विषये निष्ठा च वर्धते इत्यत्र नैव संशयः। यदि वैद्यः सदा क्रोधमुखः भवति, यद्वा सः एव विषण्णः लक्ष्यते, तर्हि तत्र व्याधितस्य का दशा भवति इति अस्माभिः चिन्तयितुं पार्यते एव। एवञ्च यदि अध्यापकस्य स्वकीयविषये तत्र रुचिर्नास्ति, उत्साहः वा नास्ति, बोधने वा तत्र उत्सुकता न भवति, तर्हि विद्यार्थिनां कष्टाय भवति। परन्तु सर्वैः सद्गुणैः सम्पन्नाः अध्यापकाः अस्यां संस्थायां वर्तन्ते इति तत्र विद्यार्थिनां रुचिः अवश्यं वर्धते एव। परन्तु यथा सर्वत्रापि दृश्यते, आरम्भे खलु उत्साहः महान् अनेकेषाम्। एवञ्च प्रायः भारतस्य दक्षिणभागे ईदृशी दशा अतिशयेन वर्तते इव लक्ष्यते। यदाहुः आरम्भशूराः खलु दाक्षिणात्याः इति, तस्मात् दक्षिणदेशीयाः आरम्भे महान्तम् उत्साहं प्रदर्शयन्ति, परन्तु पश्चात् काले सः उत्साहः किञ्चित् क्षीणः भविष्यति, ऊनः भविष्यति इत्यपि निरीक्षणीयमेव। आरम्भे अनेकेषां कुतूहलं वर्तते, परन्तु केवलेन कौतुकेन महत्कालं कस्मिन्नपि कार्ये निष्ठा यथावत् नैव स्थातुम् अर्हति। तस्मात् न केवलं कौतुकं, परन्तु वस्तुतः वास्तविकी जिज्ञासा यदि भवति, तर्ह्येव अनेके विद्यार्थिनः बहुकालं च अवश्यम् उपविश्य शृण्वन्ति। तस्मात् यद्यपि अध्यापकानां पाठक्रमः सम्यक् वर्तते, तर्हि विद्यार्थिनः सम्यक् शृण्वन्ति इति यद्यपि सत्यमेतत्, सः तत्तु आंशिकं सत्यम्। यदि विद्यार्थिनाम् उत्साहः स्वकीयः स्वीयः उत्साहः न भवति, तर्हि अत्यन्तं रुचिरं यदि अध्यापकः पाठयति चेदपि तथापि केचन विद्यार्थिनः विद्यार्थिन्यः वा किञ्चित् पराङ्मुखाः भवन्ति इत्यपि लोके लक्ष्यते एव। अस्तु, अधुना प्रतिमानाटकम् अधिकृत्य तत्र उपचत्वारिंशत् वा उपपञ्चाशत् वा प्रवचनानि विहितानि इति अत्र दृष्टं मया। एवञ्च इयन्तः विद्यार्थिनः भागं गृहीतवन्तः इत्यपि अत्रैव अवलोकितम्। अस्तु, सत्कार्यमिदं, तस्मात् अनेन सुकृतेन पुण्यं वर्धते अध्यापकानां विद्यार्थिनां च। अधुना आङ्ग्लभाषया किञ्चित् मया उच्यते यथैव प्रागेव सूचितं किञ्चित् आङ्ग्लभाषया भवतु किञ्चित् संस्कृतभाषया भवतु इति तस्मात् आङ्ग्लभाषया मया किञ्चित् उच्यते It gives me great pleasure to be in your midst. I have I have taken part in some of the programs of Vyoma. So they have all been very well organized, and Vyoma has a team of very spirited and zestful scholars and other participants who make the whole program a success. Vyoma has been doing a very great service to our country, to our heritage, and to our culture, and in particular to the Samskrita language. People generally think that Samskrita is a very difficult language, but Vyoma has been taking very good and practical steps to make it easy to learn, and helping people to learn at their own pace. So these are all very good things that Vyoma is doing, and it is indeed a commendable service to our nation. Now, coming in particular to the place in Sanskrit, there is a saying, Natakantam Kavitvam or Sandarbheshu Dasharupakam Shreya. So these statements show that the excellence of a poet consists in composing good plays. And while it is difficult in its own way to compose a long poem, an epic poem, a Mahakavya, or even a Khandakavya, because one has to be bound by the meter and we should have the requisite alankaras and so on. And in another way, composing in Sanskrit prose is also not very easy because they say Ojas samasa bhuyasvam etad gadyasya jivitam. So the Ojoguna is not very easily accomplished by poets who do not have an extraordinary command over the language. Even though each variety of composition has its own difficulties, composing a play seems to be the most difficult one because one has to dramatize events, and it is not a sort of a chronological narration of events as can be done easily in a katha or akhyayika or mahakavya or khandakavya. So the dramatization of events is something that is to be paid attention to. And the wonder of wonders is the first dramas that pertain to Ramayana were composed by a South Indian dramatist, Bhasa. And this itself shows the integrity of the nation, the national integrity. So, is national integration, sense of integration is very evident even by the time of Bhasa, generally assigned 4th century BC. So, so early on, as you can see, even Bhasa was referred to as a Muni, Bhasa Muni, as they say. So, thus, he was comparable in a way to the tradition of sages who were also great poets like Valmiki and Vyasa. And we also know that Kalidasa himself was highly indebted to Bhasa, and Kalidasa makes a clear mention of his gratefulness to Bhasa and says, Prathita Yashasam Bhasa Saumilla Kaviputradinam Prabandhan Adikramya Vartamana Kaveh Kalidasasya Katau Katam Parishado Bahumana. And therefore, he says, I cannot equal Bhasa. So Bhasa already had an established name by the time of Kalidasa. Even though various modern theories tried to place Kalidasa in the 4th or 5th century AD, actually speaking, Kalidasa belonged to 1st century BC. So in the date it was assigned to him by tradition. So he was the court of Vikramaditya, and Ashwagosha, in fact, came later than him. It is the Western prejudice of trying to portray everything good and great of Hinduism to be springing from Buddhism. So it is that tendency that tries to make Kalidasa later than Ashwagosha, but Kalidasa is prior to Ashwagosha. Okay, that's not a point that we will have to discuss here. Now, Bhasa, though, was one of the pioneers in the field of drama. So we hear that, see, even Panini had written a Samskrita Nataka, and in Patanjali's Mahabhashya, there is a reference to the way some of the themes of Mahabharata were dramatized and so on. So even in the grammatical examples that are furnished in those works, we have a very clear indication of the high level of achievement that had been achieved by our dramatists. And we don't know anything about Saumilaka that Kalidasa refers to, but in any case, Bhasa himself appears as a consummate dramatist. And that consummateness is very much evident in every one of his plays. So many of them are just one-act plays. And even within that small span, he shows great skill. And in Pratimanataka, there are two plays that are based upon the Ramayana, namely Abhisheka Nataka and Pratimanataka. And the dramatist ensures that there is no overlap in the stories. So he ensures that what is not covered here is covered there, and what is not covered there is covered here. And thus, the entire Ramayana is given a beautiful picture of in these two plays. Bhasa has also made certain changes, and the play Abhisheka or the play Pratima is not exactly just a replica of what the original Ramayana story is, and still he has made it very attractive. Now, Bhasa has a tendency to make even bad characters look good, and that is why we find Duryodhana being painted as a good person, and then Kaikeyi portrayed as a good person. So in this play, the burden of this play, one can say, is to make Kaikeyi look a worthy person. So in the Ramayana story, we know how Kaikeyi becomes the most cursed person. So in this play also, for quite some time, the truth is not revealed, and Kaikeyi stands cursed by her own son. So he is so angry. For example, Bharata is so angry with regard to his own mother Kaikeyi that he denies his being a son of Kaikeyi. He disowns his own mother. So, and he says, Mama matuscha madhyasthatvam nashobhase. So, you are unfit to occupy the place between my mother and my mother. He is referring to Kausalya and Sumitra. So, and he says Kaikeyi is unfit to stand in the midst of see these two great persons. Actually, these are only stepmothers, and he's prepared to call them his mothers, and he denies the status of a mother to his own biological mother. So therefore, he is so angry with her. And Bhasa maintains suspense till almost the end of the play. It's only the sixth act that we get to know the truth of the situation, where Kaikeyi reveals why she had to ask such a boon. Now, you can see that this is a sort of a flashback that gives a beautiful dramatic effect, and it takes almost everyone by surprise. So therefore, especially Bharata, who was supremely furious regarding his own mother, so he comes to realize that at last, so Kaikeyi, after all, was not really at fault, or at least not as faulty as she was suspected to be, and so on. Quite on the other hand, So he had done an act of, she had done an act of benefaction to Dasharatha. Dasharatha was destined to die. The Shravanakumara episode that she recalls how Dasharatha gets a curse. So in the Ramayana, actually, Dasharatha feels very happy when he is cursed. Why? And that is because, so for a long time he had no issues and therefore he was very worried. And when the sage curses him, saying that he would die of Putra Viyoga, so that definitely involves Putra Prapti first. And therefore, Dasharatha was rather happy when he was cursed like that. But many things are, say, very pleasant at the beginning, but it's only at the later stage that, so when the Papa Dasha has become full and the fruit of that has to be tasted, that one feels the pain most intensely. In fact, it is when we are separated from people whom we love the most. So it is then that the pain is felt the most, and therefore Dasharatha anyhow had to die for his indiscreet act of killing a boy who was after all serving his blind and disabled parents. And on account of this rash act, so Dasharatha had to pay a very heavy price. And Spaiki gives her own reasons by saying that um, it is because Dasharatha was destined to die that she had to ask for such a boon. And Bharata is still not quite satisfied. And he says, why did he insist on 14 years? So then she says, so I was Pariyakula Hridaya. And therefore, instead of asking for 14 days, so because of the agitated mind and confused mind, I said 14 years instead of saying 14 days. And then that could not be now reverted. And that's how it has all happened. Now, to Bharata, who would not be easily convinced by any reason, now he is now convinced and he excuses his mother. So, by this dramatic stroke of referring to conveying things through a flashback, Bhasa has achieved a very great effect. Now, such effects are seen throughout the play. Now, instead of the Maya Mriga, so trying to um, the Maya Mriga episode where Sita is beguiled and therefore she is drawn towards that Maya Mriga and insists upon Rama getting the same. So in the Ramayana, Sita had never asked for her desires, never given expression to her desires, and so on. And when she asks something for the first time, Rama is naturally obliged to go and get it. And here, on account of Ravana's magic, so a special effect is produced that the Kanchan Mriga is seen there around, and Rama is now to pursue that for the sake of the performance of the Shraddha of his father. So, and therefore Rama's exit happens, and in that moment, Ravana reveals himself in his true colors and takes Sita away. So, we find that such situations have brought about a very different effect upon the audience. Another important aspect of this play is the very name Pratima. The word Pratima is an image. You can see that on more than one occasion, the similarity between the features between the various kings of the Raghures and to Rama, Lakshmana, or Bharata is hinted. The first time that we come to see such a situation is the third act of the play when Bharata is about to enter the city and is asked to wait for a few minutes. So because the Kritika Nakshatra so is about to arise and so on. And therefore he visits the place so where there are, he thinks it is a temple and the pratimas of the various kings who are deceased are placed there. So, and Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi are supposed to visit that place. And just before Bharata has come there, and the way the conversation takes place between Bharata and the Devakulika, where Bharata, the Devakulika notices the similarity of this fellow with those pratimas is also quite in evidence. And then Sumantra also confuses for a moment as this person who must belong to this race. So, and then later on, Lakshmana is on one occasion, and even Sita can confuse Rama, Bharata to be Rama, and so on. And Rama himself says that the voice of Bharata is that of his own father, and so on. So this we find that the play gets the name Pratima not only on account of the actual statues that were there of the predecessors of Rama. So on the other hand, the word Pratima itself means similarity in Sanskrit. So the suffix, the prefix Prati and Upa for the root Ma, Prati Ma and Upa Ma. So they show that something is pitted against. So a comparable measure, something commensurate with, something that is a parallel, something which is in the image of. And thus, we find that the issue of similarity is also there very much. So in the sense of the word pratima, and therefore the play gets that name also on account of that name. And further, you must know that there have been people who have tried to misinterpret even the Vedic passages. For example, there is a saying, Natasya Pratima Asti. So there is no person who can resemble the Lord. Now, it's only when a person gets the Sarupya Mukti that the person can set to resemble the Lord. So when he becomes Sarupa, Samanakara, and so on. So we find that even Jaya and Vijaya have either four hands or hold the Gada in hand and so on, and therefore they also look like Lord Vishnu himself because um, that Sarupya is there. So there are four stages of moksha, and that similarity of form itself comes, and therefore Pratima therefore means getting to have a similar form. And the Vedic sentence Natasya Pratima Asti has been misinterpreted as to mean that there can be no icon or idol for the Lord, and therefore Murti Puja is wrong. So those who want to say that Murti Puja is wrong, based on the word Pratima, the most famous meaning of the word Pratima is statue, and they say that there can be no statue and there was no idol worship in India earlier. But quite on the other hand, not only for the divinities, so even for human beings, that there were statues even in South India is very well evidenced in this play. And this play has very many interesting aspects. So even for the history and tradition of our country, and this way, this play is very interesting. There are also a few verses, for example, Ghanaspashto Dhiraha, just describing the voice of Bharata and so on. And there are situations where there is a very beautiful play on words, as for example, the play on the word Ratha, Shunya Prapto Yidi Rathaha, Bhagno Mano Rathaha, Nunam Dasharatham Netum Kalena Preshito Ratha. So the play on the word Ratha and Manoratha. So there is a beautiful this one. In fact, even in the Ramayana, there is a statement by Sita. She says that the Manas itself is the Ratha. So, and therefore, Manoratha is a beautiful compound which involves an excellent metaphor, and therefore, Manas itself being the Ratha. And the word Manoratha means desire. and both these meanings are there. And there is a beautiful play on this word. There are also a number of beautiful suktis in the play, which make it a very memorable play. Anyhow, the various suktis give us excellent messages for our life, and the in spite of the changes that the dramatist has made, in no way have the dignity of the characters and the magnificence been reduced or detracted by the dramatist. And we can see that Bhasa himself is a very great devotee of Lord Vishnu. If you can just scan the Nandi verses of his plays, you can easily see that. And thus, in spite of the distortions he has introduced, his love for and respect for our great heritage is in no way reduced or lessened. And I have to point this out because in the last 1 century, influenced by the West, there have been numerous retellings of the epic stories of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So, where the authors have taken some liberty to change the plot or change the details of the uh, features and characters of certain characters, and they have also made an attempt to portray evil characters as good, but they have all gone against the spirit of the tradition, and it is all a sort of some certain silly and almost evil sociological concerns. For example, there are some writers who hate Brahmins and Brahminism, and therefore they want to misportray everything connected with that. And there are situations where they have tried to depict things which are not really in consonance with the spirit of our tradition. But unlike these people, Bhasa has done a great work. So he has produced a number of plays, and even in plays based on the Mahabharata, 6 plays based on the Mahabharata he has written. He has brought out um, effected certain changes here and there, but yet in no way can they be said to be detracting from the spirit of the original. So thus, we find that Bhasa's plays provide a very interesting study in the kind of approach that Bhasa himself has taken towards our tradition. And there are many good messages for this drama and from this drama. And the students who are exposed to this play will definitely be good citizens, will relish and enjoy the play. Um, I must congratulate Vyoma for um, arranging for this type of series of lectures by really efficient teachers. So I thank Vyoma for inviting me and involving me in this program, and namaskar to all of you.